whenever you are.
The drug epidemic among teenagers is slowly destroying the world around us. Not only is this a major societal issue, but also an economical and ethical crisis, destroying families and sculpting the minds of America's youth. My name is Lindsay Miranda, and I am here today to discuss how we can bring this turmoil to an end. The conformity of teenagers in the use of illegal substances is growing greater by the day. There are many influences on the everyday teenager, and the endorsement of drugs by peers or parents often push the teen to participate. This led me to ask the question, how can this influence be stopped? Better yet, why should the conformity of drugs be eradicated? It is shown that teenagers begin drug use from 6th to 8th grade. These middle school years are one of the most important chapters in a child's life, shaping their perspective of life and the world around them. Most teenagers go through puberty at this time as well, which can cause rebellion within families and conflict among everyday relationships, pressuring teenagers to conform to stress-relieving substances. This influence can also be brought on by family members or peers supporting the substance, often telling the child that it is beneficial. Along with genetic and influential factors relating to the conformity of drugs, environmental situations are often seen as key components that determine the outcome for a teenager. If a teen lives in an area where it is socially accepted and easy to find illegal drugs, there is a higher chance that the teen will be willing to do them. There are more than just societal issues on the conformity of drugs. Genetic influence takes part of the blame too. Genetically speaking, if drug use runs in a family's bloodline, there is a higher chance the teenager will become susceptible to addiction, which the rest of their family has most likely endured. Overall, society disputes who exactly has a greater influence over the use of drugs. Is it parents or is it friends? The stimulus material neural sensitivity to conflicting attitudes supports greater conformity towards positive over negative influence in early adolescence, which helps spark the idea of this argument, states that results later show that there are a 34.8% mean probability of conforming to parents and a 38.8% mean of conforming to peers, making peers more influential. Arguably, since peers are more influential, places such as schools and popular destinations for teens should be targeted, including introducing us to the 3 solutions I have gathered. These 3 solutions do not all work completely by themselves, but rather work hand in hand, providing society with the best understanding of how exactly the use of drugs can be stopped among teenagers. Not only is it a major societal issue within teens, but in the United States as a whole, affecting everyone involved. The understanding of traumatic experiences, non-intact families tend to both drink. The understanding of traumatic experiences, eradication of popularity among teens, and the overall protection of teenagers in places such as school are 3 ways that society can further change the use of drugs within teenagers. These all relate to each other in one way or another, but now they relate to what is important. A lot of the time, drug use in teens is sparked by a semi-traumatic experience, pushing the child to participate in something that they believe will help them cope. Adolescents from non-intact families tend to both drink more or at an earlier age and tend to be more frequent users of illicit drugs. This can be prevented by the understanding of some traumatic experience and the explanation along with the support needed for the young adult to understand the situation. This can be provided through therapy, group therapy, or counseling. The reversal of popularity involving drugs within teenage groups can also help lower the use of these drugs. Nonetheless, will subside the trade or selling of drugs within teenagers. If the United States further implements the unpopularity of these drugs through ads, celebrities, and social media, the chances of teens being peer pressured into the use of these drugs drops tremendously. As much of this solution as possible, there is no tangible way to get the public to agree. The protection of teenagers within schools seems to be the most easily accomplishable solution. By protection, I mean the further enforcement of a ban on drugs, surveillance, and the use of authoritarian figures to stop the use seen around school. A lot of the use of illicit drugs is in places of popularity among teenagers, and since there are 15.1 million high schoolers in the United States in the year 2020, according to the website Think Impact, there is a high chance that use of drugs will plummet if schools make a further effort to find drug use. The use of these drugs can be prevented, and a collective effort of all these solutions, many teens can be saved from addiction, while many can be prevented from facing it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, you get 2 oral defense questions. One is about your research, one is about your argument. So my first question for you is, did your research go in a different direction than you originally expected?
It actually did. I ended up finding more about the conformity of drugs within teenagers rather than my original argument, which was peers are more influential than parents. This led me to further change the question, how can this be stopped, rather than how can peers be prevented from influence.
All right, my next question for you is, what are the implications of your findings to your community?
There's a major drug issue within all of the United States, specifically Florida too, and if my solutions were to be considered at all, it could help a lot of people in this area, especially because the overall use of drugs is very prominent within high schoolers.
Good job.
So good.